بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم قل هو اللہ احد اللہ الصمد لم یلد ولم یولد ولم یکن لہ کفوا احد صدق اللہ العلی العظیم. I now request Mr. Jimmy Matthew to recite verses from the Holy Bible.
ہم کلام مقدس میں سے دیکھیں گے لوکا کی انجیل اس کا 10واں باب 30 آیت سے. یسوع نے جواب میں کہا کہ ایک آدمی یروشلم سے یرو کی طرف جا رہا تھا کہ ڈاکیوں میں گر گیا. انہوں نے اس کے کپڑے اتار لیے اور اسے مارا بھی اور ادھموا چھوڑ کر چلے گئے. اتفاقاً ایک کائن اس راہ سے جا رہا تھا اور اسے دیکھ کر کترا کر چلا گیا. اسی طرح ایک لاوی بھی اس جگہ آیا اور وہ بھی دیکھ کر کترا کر چلے گیا. لیکن ایک سامری سفر کرتا ہوا وہاں آ نکلا اور اسے دیکھ کر اس پر ترس کھایا اور اس کے زخموں کو تیل لگایا. اور دوسرے دن جا کر اس کی خبر گیری بھی کی. ان تینوں میں سے اس شخص کا جو ڈاکوؤں میں گر گیا تھا کون پڑوسی ٹھہرا؟ یسوع نے ان سے کہا جا کر تم بھی ایسا ہی کیا کرو. آمین.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Matthew. Now I request Miss Kalpana Devi to recite from Gayatri Mantra. Miss Kalpana Devi.
Om Bhurбhavasah Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhoyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Meaning, O Divine Mother, our hearts are filled within darkness. Please make this darkness distance from us and promote illumination within us. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Kalpana Devi. I invite Mr. Salim Malik, Chief Executive SPO, for his welcome address.
Thank you, Rahima. His Excellency, Mr. President Dr. Arif Alvi, Senator Retired Javed Jabbar, Chairperson SPO, Ms. Arifa Mazhar, Co-Vice Chair SPO, Dr. Tafail Muhammad Khan Sahab, Co-Vice Chair SPO, Her Excellency Elizabeth Baldwin Jones, Acting High Commissioner Canada, Ms. Khawar Mumtaz, Chairperson National Commission on Status of Women, Mr. Tariq Binouri, Chairperson Higher Education Commission, the co-founder and first chairperson of SPO as well, Mr. Qazi Azmat Isa, CEO, Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund, ministers, senators, MNAs and MPAs, diplomats and UN officials, government officers, media persons, members of our general body and board of directors, SPO, community volunteers who have come from all over Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, proud citizens of Pakistan. Thank you very much for taking time to join us in the Silver Jubilee celebrations of SPO. It is truly a privilege for me to be here and talk very briefly about the work that we do. SPO, as you know, is a leading right-based civil society organization with its citizens' voice and accountability initiatives implemented across the country. Our focus is on state and citizens' engagement for strengthening democratic institutions, systems, and to secure justice, peace, and harmony, and to eradicate conflict, poverty, and gender-based discriminations. SPO works with NGOs, CBOs, religious minorities, political parties, labor organizations, trade unions, teachers associations, intelligentsia, and legislator. You name and we are there. We work with legislator and policy makers to bring desired structural changes. Parallel to our advocacy work, SPO also designs and delivers critical service delivery projects in remote, mostly rural areas. To quote a few examples, We work with Balochistan TB Control Program and communities to eradicate tuberculosis through prevention and cure. We work with Balochistan Education Department and with Sindh Education Foundation to increase the enrollment in schools in the far-flung areas. We work with NADRA and mobilize communities so that more and more women can get their ID cards and be enrolled as voters. The list can go on. Through these and many other projects, we are supporting our government to achieve Sustainable Development Goal targets. SPO realizes the gravity of emergency, so we always respond really well. We have the privilege of partnering with all major donors and international NGOs, and we are grateful to them for their support. Many of them are well represented here today. We enjoy the trust of partner communities and the government at all levels. Mr. President's worthy presence is truly a matter of pride for SPO. Before he assumed his high office, in his capacity as a senior and highly respected politician, he personally participated in a number of consultations and has made valuable contribution to our shared goals. Together, we are bound to succeed. Once again, thank you all for joining us today and always.
Thank you, Mr. Salim Malik. Now I invite Ms. Arfa Mazhar, Co-Vice Chairperson SPO, for her remarks.
Honorable Mr. President Arif Alvi Sahab, Chairperson SPO Javed Jabbar Sahab, Vice Chair Mr. Dr. Tufail, CEO Salim Malik Sahab, distinguished guests and friends, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. On behalf of SPO, I would like to welcome you again. It gives me immense pleasure to be here today with all of you to mark 25 years of SPO's existence and immense contribution to the well-being of marginalized and vulnerable communities of Pakistan. SPO's efforts towards mobilizing, empowering, and strengthening communities in 75 districts of Pakistan would have never been possible without the support and contribution of friends, organizations, and well-wishers sitting in this hall today. I think this is a shared success and vision for all of us working towards the common goal of socially just, equal, and peaceful society. I am proud to share, during these years, the organization has reached out to mobilize hundreds and thousands of women and men in far-flung areas of Pakistan using an inclusive, participatory approach which ensured representation even from the most remote and challenging areas of the country. Honorable President, this includes places like Ghak Kalan in Khushab, where women voted for the first time in 70 years, and that was because of continuous efforts of its partner organizations, of SPO and partner organizations, in creating awareness for the right to vote. Similar efforts led by the approval of Makran Education Board, which enabled thousands of girls from Makran region to continue their education. Earlier, girls from this region had to go to Quetta and to give board exam, which discouraged many of them to get to that level of education. SPO has played a tremendous role in the development and strengthening of community-based organizations, many of which have now been registered NGOs. Empowerment of women and the role of decision-making has been a key priority for SPO over the last 24 years. SPO's initiative to set up district steering committees for closer coordination with the political parties resulted in active participation of women at the forums. Members of these committees from different political parties were constantly engaged by SPO to take women's agenda with parties' internal mandate, became main priority for the most of the political parties. policy advocacy has remained SPO's key strength. The organization has used the strengths to demand setting up key structures and mechanisms that support implementation and reforms of laws and policies. And I'm happy that structures like National Commission on the Status of Women is in place due to continuous effort of civil society organizations like SPO. I would like to conclude here by taking this opportunity to stress upon the importance of making and implementing people-centered policies and laws. This is something that SPO has strived for many years, and with collective efforts of civil society organizations has achieved some great milestones. However, there is still a lot to be done, and the struggle will continue. Honorable President, we look forward to the support of new government to encourage us to work collectively to ensure the accomplishment of a common goal of prosperous Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arfa Mazars. I invite the co-founder and present chairperson SPO, former Senator Javed Jabbar, to address the gathering.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. His Excellency Dr. Arif Alvi, President of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, distinguished colleagues here, Excellencies, the Acting High Commissioner of Canada, diplomats, colleagues in SPO, distinguished citizens. I see before me a gallery of eminent legislators all the way from Sindh and elsewhere. Thank you all for being here, and people like yourselves who contribute so valuably to different sectors of national life. It's a privilege to be your host. It is a bit very formal and very silent and very sober, very serious. We have to be in the presence of the head of state. But I just want to tell you that SPO works where the aromas, the heat, the dust, the sand, the wind, with the people, the vibrant pluralism of Pakistan. Very rarely do we get these enshrined halls. Very rarely do we get such distinguished people like yourselves watching what we do. Thank God you're not there to watch what we do. You might catch us on the wrong foot. But it's such a pleasure to take a break from there and to be here. I want to especially acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, the President. Having had the privilege of knowing him during his long professional and his very determined political struggle, I think he embodies the principles of integrity and commitment to public service. So it's a special privilege to have him with us on this silver milestone. While the diplomats here and the representatives of multilateral and our other donor partners is highly valued, I would like to particularly recognize and acknowledge the valuable role of the High Commission of Canada in Pakistan, historically. And the Acting High Commissioner is personally present. Thank you very much, Ms. Elizabeth Baldwin-Jones, for your presence. Because back in 1993, 92, 94, when most of you were not even born, it was the Canadian High Commission that actually visualized how to let the Small Projects Office become an autonomous, independent, indigenous, volunteer-led Pakistani NGO. And that transformation process was led very ably by gentlemen by the names of Mr. Rolf McKim and Mike McGarry. And I wish that they were here with us today, but I have been in touch with them in the last 72 hours. They send their greetings. These two gentlemen personified the great interest that Canada took in helping new institutions to take shape. And I want to acknowledge also the members of the general body of SPO. They are all seated here, and they represent a remarkable range of professions. They represent education, law, medicine, public service, philanthropy, tons of experience and eminence in their respective fields. And that whole tonnage of experience feeds in to the whole process of work that SPO conducts. And I'd like to acknowledge the past and present chief executives of SPO who have so ably led the team and have followed the values and the ideals that were defined in the founding papers of SPO and have led the staff through difficult times. The 25-year journey of SPO has been eventful. It's been tumultuous, like our beloved country's history. But it has always been absorbing and enhancing. There have been many successes, and there have been some failures, mainly due to characters like myself. But in the end, we've tried to persevere. And in persevering with whatever mission we started out with, I think I can briefly present 11 principles. First, we've tried to learn from the communities that we work with. We don't go in there wearing a big top hat that we are MAs or BAs or PhDs, come from the city to teach you about development. There's a lot of wisdom out there which we have benefited from. That's one. Second, we've maintained gender equity rigorously in the governing body, which is the general body, and in the board of directors. We poor men are currently in a minority in the board of directors. That's how much we believe in gender equity. Third, we profoundly respect all faiths, and there's no question of any discrimination on the basis of any difference. Fourth, we are very democratic. Elections are held regularly, no question of postponements. Sometimes we allow a little rigging. Number 5, we try to rotate offices between the provinces as much as we can. 6th, staff are recruited strictly on the basis of merit. Many a time I tried to put my nephew or my niece into positions, and alas, I was not allowed to. There is no question of any relation of the general body or the board of directors managing to get a position on SPO staff. Number 7, of course, there's macro management, and then there is micro management. But the SPO board of directors has invented a new formulation called macro management. Macro management means we keep the larger vision in mind, but we know that we can't afford to let this mischievous chief executive off on his own. All chief executives also need support and guidance. So we macro manage. We never try to get in his hair, but we keep a sharp eye on him. Number 8, total transparency, sometimes insufferably so. But each of our annual report will tell you every single rupee or paisa that we receive and that we spend. Number 9, coming with that, is uncompromising accountability, starting with ourselves. We are registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but we also have a remarkably competent internal auditor who bypasses normal management, keeps the chairperson, the vice chairpersons, the board fully informed. Number 10, new members. I know that they are not as young as I am, but we try to induct people so that at some point they forcibly take over power and remove us physically from the board of directors. And I'm glad to say that that process has been accelerated in the last few days and years. And lastly, I suppose we look at the challenges. And the challenges, the first of 3, and I will conclude with that. The first is, in the recently emerged environment in our country, for whatever reasons, we are a country fighting a terrible battle against terror, against alien forces which are very active in our country. But there is a new element of uncertainty and insecurity amongst NGOs in general. We need to stay alive and we need to survive. Number two, we must reduce dependence on overseas donors. It's a formidable challenge, but we need to motivate local philanthropy in a country otherwise so generous and so compassionate that it can proudly claim to be amongst the foremost in the world. Third, we need to retain our basic focus on building social peace and harmony, and at the same time explore some new terrains. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Javed Jabbar. I invite honorable community representatives from all 4 provinces to briefly share their interactions with SPO. تو سب سے پہلے میں گزارش کروں گی مس منشا قومی کو، جن کا تعلق ڈسٹرکٹ کیچ بلوچستان سے ہیں، کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ آئیں اور اپنے خیالات کا اظہار کریں. مس منشا قومی.
جناب صدر پاکستان اور میرے معزز معاذرین، السلام علیکم. میرا نام منشا شفیق قومی ہے. میں بلوچستان کے ایک دور دراز علاقے سے تعلق رکھتی ہوں جو ضلع کیچ میں تربت شہر کے قریب ہے. میں اپنے آپ کو خوش قسمت سمجھتی ہوں کہ ایک پسماندہ علاقے سے تعلق ہونے کے باوجود مجھے اپنے تعلیم حاصل کرنے کا ایک موقع میسر آیا. میں نے اپنے تعلیم تربت یونیورسٹی میں حاصل کی ہے، ایم اے انگلش لٹریچر میں، جس یونیورسٹی کو اسٹیبلش کرانے میں ایس پی او کا ایک بہت بڑا سپورٹ تھا. تاہم تعلیم حاصل کرنے کے باوجود مجھے اپنی تعلیم سے فائدہ اٹھانا اور معاشرے کی خدمت کرنا بہت مشکل لگ رہا تھا، کیونکہ جس طرح سے ہمارے علاقے میں کچھ لوگ ہیں اور وہ سمجھتے ہیں کہ عورتوں کے لیے کسی بھی جگہ عورتوں کے لیے ملازمت کرنے کے لیے اچھا اور محفوظ جگہ نہیں ہے. ایس پی او کا ہمارے علاقے میں کام کرنا میرے لیے ایک امید کی کرن ثابت ہوئی. جب پہلی بار مجھے ایس پی او میں کام کرنے کا موقع میسر آیا تو میں بہت زیادہ ڈری ہوئی تھی، کیونکہ ایسے پسماندہ علاقے سے نکل کر اور ایسے ادارے میں کام کرنا میرے لیے واقعی میں بہت ایک بڑی بات تھی. جب میں نے ایس پی او کے ساتھ کام کیا تو میرے اعتماد میں اضافہ ہوا اور میں نے یہ محسوس کیا کہ اس ادارے کے ساتھ کام کر کے لڑکیوں کے لیے ایک محفوظ اور خوشگوار ماحول ہے. مجھے فخر ہے کہ میں ایس پی او کے کئی پروگراموں میں نے بڑھ چڑھ کر شرکت کی اور ان میں لڑکیوں کی تعلیم کا فروغ بھی شامل ہے. ایس پی او جیسے ادارے کا حصہ بن کر میں نے اپنے علاقے کی عوام کی بہتری میں اپنا کردار ادا کیا، اسپیشلی بچوں کے ایجوکیشن کے حوالے سے. ایس پی او کے عورتوں کے لیے کام، تربیت اور معلومات دینے کی وجہ سے اب میرے علاقے میں جو عوام ہیں وہ ایس پی او پہ بھرپور اعتماد کرتے ہیں اور عورتوں کی بڑی تعداد ان پروگراموں میں کسی روک ٹوک کے شرکت کرتی ہیں. میں سمجھتی ہوں کہ میری اصل کامیابی یہ ہے کہ عملی زندگی میں میرے کردار کی وجہ سے دوسری لڑکیوں اور عورتوں کو حوصلہ ملا. اب وہ بھی آگے بڑھ کر اپنی عملی زندگی میں اپنی صلاحیتوں کا بھرپور اظہار کر رہی ہیں. تھینک یو سو مچ.
بہت شکریہ مس منشا قومی. اب میں گزارش کروں گی مسٹر جمی میتھیو کو، جن کا تعلق ڈسٹرکٹ مردان صوبہ خیبر پختونخوا سے ہے، کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ آئیں اور اپنے خیالات کا اظہار کریں. جمی میتھیو.
شروع کرتا ہوں خدا ان کے بابرکت نام سے. میں جناب صدر پاکستان کا، ایس پی او کے اسٹاف کا اور آنے والے تمام معزز مہمانوں کا دل کی عطا گرائیوں سے مشکور ہوں. میرا نام بشپ جمی میتھیو ہے. میرا تعلق کے پی کے ایک شہر مردان سے ہے. پیشے کے لحاظ سے میں ایک پادری ہوں اور میں جس علاقے میں خدمت کر رہا ہوں اس چرچ کو 2012 میں جلا دیا گیا. اس وقت سے میں اور میرا چرچ اپنے طور پر بے تحاشا خدمات کر رہا ہے. ایسی ناپسندیدہ نامناسب واقعات کی روک تھام کے لیے اپنی کاوش کر رہے ہیں. اور چونکہ جو واقعہ ہمارے چرچ کے ساتھ حادثہ ہوا اس کی وجہ ہمارا ملک نہیں تھا بلکہ ایک باہر کا ملک تھا، تو اسی چیز کو مد نظر رکھتے ہوئے ہم نے چرچ کی طرف سے UN کو اپیل کی، لیٹر لکھا کہ آیا جو حادثہ ہمارے ساتھ ہوا ہے ایسا ہی قانون سازی کی جائے کہ پورے ملک میں، پورے نہیں بلکہ پوری دنیا میں امن آئے. اسی چیز کو مد نظر رکھتے ہوئے جب ان سے اپیل کی گئی تو ان کو کہا گیا کہ ہمارے ملک میں ایک قانون ہے 295 میں اس کی فیور میں ہوں، کیونکہ قانون بنتے ہیں، اس کی قانون اسی وقت قانون ہوتا ہے جب وہ اس کے اوپر عمل کیا جائے. تو اس کو میں نے کہا کہ ہمارے لیے بڑا بہتر ہے کہ پوری دنیا میں یہ قانون، کیونکہ سارے دنیا ان UN کے ممبرز ہیں، اور اگر یہ قانون UN کے تھرو لگتا ہے تو پوری دنیا میں امن آ سکتا ہے. لیکن اکارڈنگ ٹو ہر ایک مذہبی کتاب ان کی وہی عزت کی جائے، بلکہ ان کے پیشوا، ان کے نبی جو بھی ہوں ان کو اسی قدر کی نظر سے دیکھا جائے. انہوں نے رپلائی کیا اور کہا کہ یہی بات آپ اگر فلور سے کریں تو ہم اسے ایکسیپٹ بھی کرتے ہیں. لیکن بارہا میں نے کئی بار اپنے گورنمنٹ کو لکھا، ملیحہ لودھی صاحبہ کو، لیکن کوئی جواب نہیں آیا. اگر ہم دیکھتے ہیں اپنے ملک کو تو بہت سارے مشکلات، پریشانیاں درپیش ہیں عوام کو، لیکن یہی پریشانیاں جب اقلیت ہو تو ان کو ڈبل کر کے سوچ لیں. جو بھی آپ لوگ فیسز کر رہے ہیں اگر وہ اقلیت کی جگہ ہوں تو ان کو ڈبل کر لیں جو ہمیں درپیش ہیں. انہی مشکلات کی وجہ سے ایک احساس محرومیت اقلیت میں پائی جانے لگی ہمارے خطے میں خاص طور پر. تو اسی احساس محرومیت کو فیل کرتے ہوئے جب میں خدمت میں تھا، اپنے طور پہ کام کر رہا، تو میری SPO کے جو KP کا سٹاف ہے ان کے ساتھ ملاقات ہوئی، اور ان کے ویوز بھی سن کر مجھے بڑی دلی طور پر تسلی ہوئی کہ کوئی ایک ایسے ہیں جو اقلیت کی آواز بنے. انہوں نے ہماری جو آواز تھی اس کو مختلف گورنمنٹ کے آفیشلز NGOs ان تک پہنچانے میں ہماری مدد کی. کیونکہ اگر دیکھا جائے تو کوئی بھی مذہب، کسی بھی مذہب دھرم کو اٹھا کر دیکھ لیں تو وہ پیار اور محبت پر ہوتا ہے، لیکن ہماری یہ کم علمی ہوتی ہے کہ ہم دوسرے مذاہب کو نہیں جاننا پسند کرتے، جس کی وجہ سے قدورتیں بڑھتی ہیں، اور وہی قدورتیں جو ہیں پھر نفرتوں میں تبدیل ہو جاتی ہیں. اور اگر ہم اسی طور پر جب SPO نے اپنی پلاننگ کی تو انہوں نے ان سب کو ایک چھت کے نیچے اکٹھا کیا، اور اسی کے لیے انہوں نے مختلف ایفرٹس کی، مختلف لوگوں سے باتیں کی، ان کو بلایا، اور یک روح کہہ لے یا یک سوچ کر کے انہوں نے TV شو کیے، ریڈیو شو کیے، اور بہت زیادہ اس کا آؤٹ پٹ ہمیں ملا کہ ہماری جو آواز دبی ہوئی تھی وہ پوری دنیا تک پھیل گئی. اس لیے میں SPO کا بے حد مشکور ہوں اور دعاگو بھی ہوں کہ خداوند ایسی NGOs کو اسی طرح خدمت کا موقع دے اور وہ بڑھ چڑھ کر انسانی خدمت بھی کریں تاکہ انہیں برکت ملے. شکریہ.
بہت شکریہ جمی میتھیو. اب میں گزارش کروں گی مس رضوانہ حالے پوٹو کو، جن کا تعلق ضلع حیدرآباد سندھ سے ہے، کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ آئیں اور اپنے خیالات کا اظہار کریں. رضوانہ حالے پوٹو.
میں جناب صدر اور یہاں پہ بیٹھے ہوئے سارے حضرات خواتین کی سلام کرتی ہوں. السلام علیکم. میرا نام رضوانہ حالے پوٹو ہے. میرا تعلق ضلع حیدرآباد کے ایک چھوٹے سے دیہات میں گھر کے کاموں کے علاوہ کارکاشی اور سلائی کا کام بھی کرتی تھی. میں زراعت کے جدید طریقوں کے بارے میں بہت کم جانتی تھی. گاؤں کی دوسری عورتوں اور بچوں کی طرح میرے بچوں کو بھی پیٹ کی بیماری کا مسئلہ تھا. پانی کی کمی کی وجہ سے فصل اچھی نہیں ہوتی تھی. بھاری تسکین کے گاؤں کے لوگوں میں جھگڑا ہوتا رہتا تھا. ہمارے پاس اسی مسئلے کا کوئی حل نہیں تھا. बाद में मुझे SPO के प्रोग्रामों में शरीक का मौका मिला, अहम मालूमात मिली। SPO ने गांव के मर्द और औरतों से उनके मसाइल के बारे में बात की, वर्कशॉपी का एहतमाम किया। SPO की तरबियत का हमें अहम ये फ़ायदा हुआ, हम गांव की औरतें अपने हकूक़ के लिए आवाज़ उठाने का हौसला हुआ। औरतें वो तमाम काम कर सकती है जो मर्द हजरात कर सकते हैं। हमने पानी के मसाइल के हल के लिए हुकूमत का महकमे से बातचीत की, हकूक़ों के लिए आवाज़ उठाई, पानी मिलना शुरू हो गया। तालीम की अहमियत का पता चला तो अपने बच्चों को स्कूल में दाखिला दिलवाई। हमने किचन गार्डनिंग के बारे में सीखा तो अपने बच्चों और ख़ानदान के तमाम अफरादों को खुराक मिलने लगी। SPO की तरफ से सेहत, तालीम और आमदनी की इजाफे के लिए तरबियत का अहम ये फ़ायदा हुआ। आज मेरी मेरे बच्चों की ज़िंदगी बेहतर गुजर रही है, मेरे पूरे ख़ानदान की। SPO की बेहतर मुस्तकबिल की उम्मीद पैदा हुई। हम औरतों को ये बात समझ में आ गई है कि कोई माशरियात ही तभी तरक्की करता है, फलता फूलता है जब कोई औरत मैदान में आगे बढ़ती है। मेहरबानी।
बहुत शुक्रिया रिजवाना हाले पोटो। अब मैं गुजारिश करूंगी मिस बिस्मिल्लाह इरम, जिनका ताल्लुक़ डिस्ट्रिक्ट खानेवाल पंजाब से है, कि वो स्टेज पे आएँ और अपने ख़यालात का इजहार करें।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। इज़्ज़त माब जनाब सदर पाकिस्तान, स्टेज पर बैठे मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान और हाल में मौजूद व ज़रख़ेज़ ज़हन जो पाकिस्तान को बेहतर बनाने के लिए कदम बढ़ा रहे हैं, सबको मेरी तरफ़ से सलाम। आज इस तकरीब में जिस मौजू पर इजहार ख़याल का मौका मिला है वो दर हकीकत मेरी ज़िंदगी के उस सफ़र से मुतल्लिक़ है कि जो मैंने इस डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में आने के बाद अपने समाज की बेहतरी के लिए, अपने इलाका में पायदार तरक्की के लिए, बिलखसूस ख़वातीन की तरक्की के लिए और अदल इंसाफ की बालादस्ती और इंसानी हकूक़ के तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के लिए ये सफ़र शुरू किया। मेरा नाम बिस्मिल्लाह इरम है। जनूबी पंजाब के एक पसमानदा ज़िला खानेवाल के एक कस्बा मखदूमपुर पहाड़ा से मेरा ताल्लुक़ है। मैं समझती हूँ कि SPO के तरबीती प्रोग्रामों में शिरकत के बाद मैंने अपना सियासी सफ़र शुरू किया और मुसलसल 3 बार मेंबर ज़िला कौंसिल मुंतखब हुई और आज मैं अपने इलाका के लोगों में एक सियासी हवाले से कदर की निगाह से जानी जाती हूँ। SPO से मेरा ताल्लुक़ कोई दिनों या महीनों का नहीं बल्कि सालों पर मुहित है। SPO में आने से पहले मेरे जो ख़यालात, जो ख्वाब, जो अज़ाइम ख़वातीन को सियासी अमल में शिरकत के लिए, औरतों को बाइख्तियार बनाने के लिए, आवाम को इंसानी हकूक़ से आगाही दिलवाने के लिए, ताकि वो मालूमात के हसूल के बाद अपने हकूक़ के लिए ख़ुद आवाज़ बुलंद करें, ये सब SPO के साथ काम करके पूरे हुए। मेरा यकीन है कि औरत हिम्मत करे और अगर डट कर मुकाबला करे तो हर मुश्किल का मुकाबला कर सकती है, ज़िंदगी के हर शोबा में अपना नाम और मकाम बना सकती है। SPO ने मेरी ज़ाती ज़िंदगी के अंदर बेहतरीन समाजी रहनुमा, बेहतरीन समाजी कारकुन और मेरे इत्तमाद में भरपूर इजाफ़ा किया। जिसकी बुनियाद पर मैं लोगों की ज़िंदगियों में बेहतरी लाने में अपना किरदार अदा कर रही हूँ और शायद ज़िंदगी का हकीकी फ़लसफ़ा भी यही है। एसपीओ ने हमेशा जनूबी पंजाब में लीडिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का रोल अदा किया। एसपीओ ने जब पाकिस्तान में ख़वातीन पर के हरासमेंट एक्ट का मंजूरी के बाद गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर के लोगों को, ख़ुसूसन ख़वातीन को पहली दफ़ा हरासमेंट एक्ट के हवाले से तरबियत दी, तो वो दिन मेरे ख्वाबों की ताबीर का दिन था कि ख़वातीन अब बेहतर अंदाज से अपनी सलाहियतों को बरूए कार ला सकेंगी। एसपीओ की काविशें हर शोबा में काबिल सताइश हैं, मगर यूथ और ख़वातीन को दी जाने वाली तरबियत के नताइज दूर रस हैं। मुस्तकबिल की माँओं को तरबियत देकर हमने माशरा में अमन के प्याम्बर परवान चढ़ाने में अहम किरदार अदा किया है और इसके नताइज इंशाअल्लाह हमारी माँओं की गोदों में पलने वाले जब बच्चे जवान होंगे तो एक सरसब्ज दरख्त की सूरत में नज़र आएगा। अभी गो के मंजिल दूर है, मगर अभी सफ़र भी जारी है, इस दुआ के साथ कि हम सब अपने हिस्से की शमा इसी तरह जलाते रहेंगे।
बहुत शुक्रिया। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अब मैं आई रिक्वेस्ट मिस्टर जावेद जब्बार to provide brief summary in English of their remarks.
For the benefit of non-Urdu speaking guests, distinguished guests, we will be sending them transcripts in English, but just to briefly summarize what our colleagues from 4 provinces said. Mancha Qaumi spoke about how working with SPO instilled in her a new self-confidence and has inspired many other girls and women to come forward in that part of Pakistan. Mr. Jimmy Matthews spoke about how SPO made it possible for his community after a tragic burning of a church in 2012 to become more mobilized and focused on persuading the communities, the provincial government and the federal government to ensure implementation of global and UN conventions on protecting religious minorities. Ms. Rizwana Halipoto from Sindh referred to the fact that local conflicts within the community caused due to shortages of water and other factors were a constant source of tension. SPO helped conduct conflict resolution and conflict management processes so that today she is able to say that anything men can do, women can do also. I'm not quite sure about that, but almost, they can almost do everything that men can do, and all power to her and to all women. From Punjab, our friend talked about how interacting with SPO has helped her to gain political struggle, became empowered. She's elected thrice to the local district council, and she supports the initiative of SPO, particularly on pro-women and pro-youth legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Javed Jabbar. I invite Her Excellency, the Acting High Commissioner of Canada and Pakistan, Elizabeth Baldwin-Jones, to address the gathering.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. His Excellency President Alvi, Senator Jabbar, Ms. Zarifa Mazar, Ms. Khawar Mumtaz, Dr. Tariq Banur, and Mr. Zazi Azmat Isa. Thank you very much for including us today. And I have to say a particular thank you from us all to Senator Jabbar for saving me about a page of my speech, because it was important to explain why Canada in particular would be up here, considering we have so many partners and so many distinguished guests here today. But it is indeed a pleasure to be here, and I'm both honored and humbled to have followed such passionate advocates for the work of SPO. Clearly the voices from those who've been involved, engaged, and helped by the organization really speak far better than any of us to the good that SPO does. So let me also thank the National Library for hosting us in this lovely space today. This celebration not only brings attention to the achievements of SPO, but also take stock of the challenges that have been overcome to amplify citizens' engagement in the call for securing justice, harmony, ending conflict, addressing poverty, and gender inequalities. Canada has obviously been very proud to have had a role in the founding of SPO and its programming over the course of the years. And now I get to skip about a page of excruciating detail about that involvement. We're proud to have played a role in the various types of assistance that have been rendered over the decades. SPO trained and offered technical assistance to over 100 community-based organizations and 78 women's organizations on rights-based approaches, democratic behavior, gender and environmental issues during the time of Canada's direct and very specific engagement. It's just for one example, when the catastrophic floods hit Pakistan in 2010, we partnered with SPO to respond to the needs of more than 23,000 women, children, and men who'd been affected by the disaster. Today, thousands of Pakistani grassroots community-based organizations and NGOs are contributing to Pakistan's development because they have benefited from training, technical assistance, and management advice provided by SPO. Development assistance that culminates in long-term sustainability deserves great applause, especially so when the ends enable the empowerment and agency of voices and action in support of human rights, women, and minority interests, as we've already heard today. SPO does all of this and more. Empowerment is a theme that is dear to Canada and to many of you here this afternoon. Moreover, Canada's official development assistance champions the values of inclusion, peace, and pluralism. Pakistan is a strategic partner for Canada, a partner with whom we have had a long-standing development relationship. We are proud of the Canadian heritage of working in Pakistan with civil society groups, so we are very pleased to join in the applause for SPO's 25 years of contributing to Pakistan and to the evolution of grassroots organization in this country, and we wish SPO continued success.
Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Baldwin-Jones. Now I invite Ms. Khawar Mumtaz, Chairperson, National Commission on the Status of Women, to share her thoughts. Ms. Khawar Mumtaz.
Honorable President of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, Chairperson SPO, Mr. Javed Jabbar, co-presidents, co-chairs, Arifa Mazhar and Dr. Tufail and Mr. Salim Malik, the Honorable Acting High Commissioner of Australia, Excellencies, Canada, I'm so sorry, and Excellencies, friends, colleagues, I'd like to my congratulations to SPO on their Silver Jubilee and many thanks for inviting me to join in the celebrations. I feel privileged indeed. SPO's journey is one that I have been associated with from the time it transformed from small projects office to strengthening participatory organization in 1994. I see myself over here not only as the chair of NCSW, where I acknowledge the contribution and the commitment that SPO has had for women's rights and women's development, but I have been a fellow traveler from the time it was born, as a member of the Pakistan NGO Forum, which was formed in 1994, and to the platform of the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, where SPO was a partner and was one of the colleagues who formed the Pakistan National Committee of IUCN. As a co-partner in Rural Social Development Program supported by EU for institutional strengthening for 5 years. And we continue to be partners in many joint efforts. So I see the decade of the 90s was when the new kind of NGOs emerged with a focus on grassroots developments and rights. SPO was one of them. It was a strong and active partner in the NGO movement that began in 1994 and blossomed in the next decade. SPO and Dr. Suleiman Sheikh at the helm was part of a core set of NGOs who established the NGO Forum, a platform that was over the next 10 years grew to about 3,000 members of big and small organizations from across the country. It was a vibrant platform based on an internal code of conduct and democratic principles that became the voice of civil society organization. A similar platform is much needed now at this point in time. SPO is one of the support organizations that began its operations with mobilization and organization of people and communities at the grassroots levels, strengthening support to CBOs, building their capacity, developing their management skills, forming local organizations to deal with local problems collectively. Many of those matured to become independent NGOs and CSOs and have come into their own now. I'm delighted to find out that SPO's work now spreads to 75 districts, some very remote, including in the former FATA and in tribal areas. Over the years, one has seen SPO expand its scope of concerns with a stronger commitment to democratic governance, promoting of pluralism, to a commitment to social justice, women's rights, and the rights of people from religious and ethnic minorities and their institutions. There are two criteria that I consider necessary to assess the success of an organization. Number one, its capacity to adapt itself to face new challenges and contexts that surface in the life of a society. And two, to be able to have smooth leadership transition. In my views, SPO has managed to stand up to both. Its spatial expansion and strategies for effectiveness and its systematic change of leadership indicates a strong role of its board and general body that guides its policies and actions and its administrative structures and systems. Before concluding, I would like also to take the opportunity to acknowledge the role of donors at the time when organizations like SPO came into being. In the period that saw the creation and growth of support organizations that in turn nurtured smaller organizations and CBOs, there was sustained donor support that enabled building of strong governance systems as well as programmatic approach for long-term impact. Canadian support is an example of that kind of support that SPO received. Intellectual and knowledge depth as well as documentation, methodologies, approaches, and innovations were made possible. Opportunity was provided to build expertise and specialization. It was a different era where the outsourcing was not the fad. The institutions built their capacities internally. I think the time is now right to analyze the patterns and pathways through which CSOs have traversed in the past 25 years. Where did they fall short, and where did they create new avenues? Their successes and failures, their contributions and capacities, and strategies to the challenges of today. SPO's Silver Jubilee is a good time for self-reflection and analysis. I suggest it take the lead in doing so and be as successful as it has been so far in doing that too. With that, thank you.
I request Mr. Qazi Azmat Isa, Chief Executive, Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund, to share his thoughts.
Honorable President of Pakistan, Dr. Alvi Saab, Chairperson SPO, Vice Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. 25 years, mashallah, that is a huge achievement, an organization celebrating 25 years. But so we need to normally at these moments, one celebrates, one expresses gratitude, and one also reflects on what needs to be done for the future. And I would like to just start with those things in terms of what are the things that SPO can celebrate. I think one of the ones that I think SPO can be particularly proud of is the fact that it has stayed true to its ideals. the ideals we all heard in terms of reaching out to the marginalized, reaching out to areas where nobody else would go, reaching out to women, to other faiths. I don't like the word minorities, but yes, to those people. And I think this is a huge thing that SPO can celebrate in terms of really being the voice of the voiceless. The other thing that SPO can celebrate is its whole approach to development, which has been inclusive. It's not only known for one particular sector, like doing education or health. It looks at development in a holistic manner, reaching out to provide services where they are needed, be it education, water, and building it on the base of community institutions. And I think that is what makes it successful. So that is what SPO can celebrate on 25 years as well. The other thing that SPO celebrates is the quality of the program. It's not only about doing the work, but it's also making sure that it is doing it effectively and making sure that it's done in a cost-effective manner as well. And that has been validated by donors, by government, in terms of the quality of the work that it does. The other thing I think that SPO can celebrate, and this is something that was mentioned earlier as well, is the quality of the general body and the leadership and the board of directors. It is outstanding. This is, I think, the hallmark of SPO. And I congratulate all of you for that. And also, not only the quality of the board and the general body, but the quality of the staff and the management. So huge congratulations and reason to celebrate. And I think one of probably the most distinguishing feature of this organization is the chair, which has led this organization in such a remarkable manner. Sir, this is really an outstanding, a leader that inspires, that builds confidence, and ensures that the institution goes from strength to strength. So I think this is all that we can celebrate as being part of SPO, is, those things. And I think it's also an opportunity to show gratitude. 25 years is a long time. And I think the first that we can all show gratitude to is to the people that inspire us. I mean, the 4 people from the provinces, आपने जो बात की है, दिल से जो बात की है, और यही है जो हमारे लिए सबसे बेहतरीन, जिसको कह सकते हैं कि तोहफा है, कि आपने हमें मौका दिया कि आपकी खिदमत कर सकें. SPO. So the other is showing gratitude to the people who have supported us, and particularly the Canadian CEDA High Commission. I don't know where the money comes from, but it's been hugely hugely important. I remember when it was first formed as a small projects office, and that's 32 years ago. So actually this organization is older than 25 years. So, and then also the other partners that SPO has had. Now in terms of now I come to the kind of time for reflection. I think reflection is something we don't do very well. And I think it's an important thing that we need to do, because it's part of our tradition, it's part of our ethos, it's part of our culture, our religion. There is a famous hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that 1 hour of reflection is more important than 1 year of prayers. And I think this is very, very profound, and we need to take that time to be able to look within ourselves and see where are we going. And I would like to just, if I may, because I know there's one speaker is short, so I'm waiting for your cough, so if you want to cough, please let me know. My time is up. But I'll tell you, this epiphany came to me, and I like to share this because it reflects on in terms of how we go forward. When I was working in Balochistan, went to a village, it was called Tunio Sirich, it was close to Dadar town, and sat with a community organization there. And I was looking at what they'd done in these 4 or 5 years that the organization, Balochistan Rural Support Program, had been supporting it. They had built up, mashallah, a nice nest egg. They had a few lakh rupees saved up. There was an institution. They had lots of cattle. So I was sitting with them, with the group, and I said to them, we have done a lot, now let us move on and go and work with other with other communities after 2 or 3 years. So what the guy said to me had such a profound effect on me, and that has stayed with me all my life. And what he said to me was, he said, do you think this relationship was based on you giving us something or based on us receiving something from you? It was based on friendship. It was based on love. That is the essential ingredient. And the other thing that it dawned upon me is, am I relevant to the needs of, is that all I can offer? So I think the important thing for SPO's consideration is, are we still relevant to the needs of the people? There is so much change going on, and I think that reflection is very, very important. And what are those kind of things? I'd like to point out a few of them that you may want to consider, sir, as you go forward to the next 25 years, inshallah. Because institutions are living organisms. And they are born, they progress, they mature, and die. However, institutions don't have to die if they keep reinventing themselves and stay relevant. And just to give you an example, Japan has the oldest institutions in the world. Over 20,000 institutions are over 100 years old. Some are over 1,000 years old. But when somebody did a study is, what is the reason for their longevity? And they came up with 3 things. One was that there was a vision that inspired everyone. And I think that has been the case for SPO, and that is what you need to take forward. The vision that inspires everyone. The other is, there are inherent values of the institution that they are not going to compromise on. And those I see in SPO, the values of inclusion, of transparency, of accountability, of good stewardship. And the third one, which is a uniquely Japanese trait, it's called kaizen, which means continuous improvement, constantly striving for improvement. And I think that needs to be part of the DNA of SPO. The other thing, a couple of other thoughts, and then I will finish, is always to evaluate, is always to build, a kind of a narrative which shows that whatever you do is making a difference. Do baselines, do research through third parties. So then you can do course correction, or you can decide which is the more effective program. Because money is, we need to make sure that we are putting our resources where we are making a big difference. The other thing is to constantly innovate as well. I think that is, we forget, we become complacent. Some of our institutions, which have been world-class institutions, have decayed because they have not innovated. They have not stayed relevant to the needs of the people. And what are the new challenges of this country, or the new opportunities of this country? One of the opportunities, obviously, the young dynamic population. The other is high teledensity. So I think it's very important that SPO recognizes these opportunities and leverages them, leverages technology, leverages the energy of the youth, and provide them with livelihoods, because there is a very large population and they have, very limited opportunities of livelihood. And finally, I think what is very important is that the investment that you have made over the last 25 years, which is primarily in giving voice, in building institutions of the people, you need to leverage them in so many ways. And this is where government would also be very keen to seek your help, because I think at the end of the day, the work that you do is filling the gap that people feel between communities and government. From you, I know you aggregate institutions from hamlet to village to union council, and you form these union council-based organizations. You can then leverage better services to the people, give voice so that they can actually, if the government is not coming down to the hamlet, the people are being, have a voice at the union council level. So I think those are things that you may want to consider as you move forward. So, and then if you do that, you will add value to the communities. They will feel that SPO is now relevant. They're providing a service which, makes a difference in their lives. So in the end, I would like to also offer my prayers for SPO for the next 25 years. Ladies and gentlemen, SPO needs to stay hungry, work hard, never get complacent, go create a better future for the rural communities of Pakistan. And remember the first lesson of achieving greatness, as Jalaluddin Rumi said, listen or drop, give yourself without regret, give yourself up without regret, and exchange gain the whole ocean. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Qazi Azmat Isa. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lifetime Achievement Award will be presented to Sayyid Abid Rizvi. I request Sayyid Abid Rizvi to come to the dais. Now, I request the chairperson to read the text written on the award.
I was remiss in not acknowledging the presence of Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Netherlands. Please welcome to the gathering. Thank you. We can't afford to offend the Dutch. We need every donor and overspend overseas country. But no, I know that's regardless of you. We are grateful for the support that your country has also given. Before I read the inscription that is written on this Lifetime Achievement Award, I draw your attention to a summary which will be presented to you as you leave the premises if it has not already been presented, which lists on the front inside cover the names of all the very esteemed general body members who have been with us, associated with us. And later on, it lists the 11 individuals who we dearly miss. They have gone on to a better world, but they remain alive in our hearts. And I want to acknowledge the valuable role rendered by all the past and present vice chairpersons, as well as the past chairpersons and chief executives. The Lifetime Achievement Award is presented to, in recognition of, and I quote, in recognition of the valuable contribution to the progress of SPO for 25 years by Sayyid Abid Rizvi, who is a veteran broadcaster of Pakistan, as evident in the fact that he is the only member of the successive elected SPO boards of directors who participated in all 111 board meetings held from 1994 to 2019. This Lifetime Achievement Award is presented to him on the special request by SPO by His Excellency Dr. Arif Alvi, President, Islamic Republic of Pakistan.
I now request His Excellency, the President of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, to address the gathering.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My friend, my senior both in school and in politics, Senator Javed Jabbar, Chairperson of SPO, Dr. Tufail, Mr. Salim Malik, Mrs. Mazhar, the High Commissioner from Canada, and Her Excellency the Ambassador from Netherlands, MPAs here, my friend Firdaus Naqvi, who just have moved out, and Adiba Arif. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It is indeed a great pleasure to be here on the 25th anniversary of the celebrations which SPO is doing. Javed has been a dear old friend, and I credit him with dragging me almost everywhere after he became the senator particularly. And I remember his organization, which was Ba Beli, and he took me and he said, you can do something there in Tharparkar. And the only thing I could think of was take my World War II type of dental chair. I thought I could extract teeth for people in pain. And I went with him. It was a 3-day trip into Tharparkar, and I remember there was an ENT specialist, our friend Iftikhar Salahuddin, and some other doctors, and we tried to do our best. And since then, these are the people. He was about 2 years senior to me, and we used to look up to him. He was a good debater. And then such icons, as they come into public life, they try and push to the people who are well-to-do the misery of the people who are not. And in the same context, I am very happy because the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he worked for a hospital first, because I believed if you want to take people out of poverty and extreme poverty, there are two important issues which we learn from China and which we learn from Africa. And the two important issues are giving people education so they can earn a better livelihood, very important, you can't miss out on that. And at the same time, to take care of people's health. Because what happens is when there is misery as far as incidence of disease is concerned, people like us in our cultures, we would like to spend everything we have earned for our beloved father or mother or any other relatives. And what happens is that once that is done, the people who have worked hard for 5 or 10 years to accumulate some money and to be able to invest, spend it on health. And therefore the entire family which has tried to come up falls back into misery. So China has had a good experiment focusing on these two things, and I think when Mr. Imran Khan worked first on health, then on education, and he is a person who has done philanthropy and worked hard, and these are the icons you follow. Like I followed Javed Jabbar, for example, sitting here. I looked up at Idi Saab. I looked at even this young man, Shahzad Roy, in the prime of his musical career, he started working on education. There are many other heroes to me. Adib Rizvi in Karachi, many heroes, I look up to them. And these organizations, people who set up those organizations, look down, and then the gaps which are left by the government. Because if the government is very efficient in any country, and it doesn't happen anywhere in the world, if the government is very efficient, you don't need organizations to plaster those gaps left by government. There are social organizations in the most developed countries who try and look at that. The Salvation Army, for example, who try and look at the problems which the people face, and they come forward to try and remove that misery. What happens is, the changing times, you'll be surprised the basics of life, if they are not available, that is misery. At the same time, if there is disparity between the rich and the poor, even though the poor may have the basics of life, there is so much resentment, psychological resentment in that phenomenon. And Thomas Piketty recently wrote Capital, a book. Much more is being talked about the increasing number of billionaires. In fact, New York Times published an article about a week back or 2 weeks back to abolish billionaires. Yeah. Definitely that's not a solution, but it is an expression of the fact that accumulation of wealth, while most of the world is hungry, for example, while people are in misery, for example, where people have no education, the disease footprint in the world is huge. How can you afford to have such discrepancy? A system like capitalism is tested by the fact that no system can be right when there's such a big discrepancy, where there are probably 20 billionaires, or I just don't remember exactly, 20 billionaires or 13 billionaires owning more than half of the world's wealth. So organizations like SPO and organizations where people like you who serve them are very conscious of the fact that they look down and they want to do something. About 10-15 years ago, I wrote a book, never got published. I wrote a book and I was looking for telling people what is the difference between happiness and the joy of life and being sad. Did a lot of research. Why it didn't get published, I'll tell you. I did a lot of research and I found that the level of unhappiness in people, even for example a person with AIDS, and that is my research, I read a lot about it. Even a person with AIDS, he would be miserable. For once he finds out, or he or she finds out, that there's a major disease and he may not live for 6 or 7 months or maybe a year or two, there will be misery for 3 or 4 months. But then the person, there's strength enough in the human mind that the person gets used to it. Though we will not. If I see a person who's going through some carcinoma or something, and I look at him through that window of time for a little while, I'll feel miserable. He may be miserable, but not as much. The human psychology adapts to that. What makes people happy, on the other hand? You would think that a lot of money would, and there has been research done for people who make, in a lottery, they make $30 million or whatever. They will be very happy for the next 3 or 4 months. Then they will come back and they will realize that this does not make them happy. Very strange. So what is, in continuous sadness, let me give you first that. What makes people sad for more than 3 or 4 months? It is bereavement in the family, losing somebody. A husband losing a wife losing a husband, people losing their children. So that bereavement lasts more than 3 or 4 months and longer. What makes people happy is not a promotion in a job. It is not a lottery which comes around and you're richer by $30 million or $50 million. What makes people happy is when they look down, recognize the misery of other people and then try to do something. Those people across the board are happier than those who are just looking for material benefit. Because those who are looking for material benefit, they climb that stair of a better job or a better salary, but then 4 months later, 5 months later, they're looking for something higher. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned the fact that for taqwa or for God-fearing, you must look up people who are better than you, and for the worldly capacity or what God has given you must look below what God has given to other people and then try and help and lift them up. This is what Pakistan should be. This is what people of Pakistan should be looking for, and that is what we actually do. You see, it does not require an Imran Khan to tell SPO that what you need to do. It does not require any other leader, but just the fact that people care for other people and the opportunity is given. And be proud of your country. He has written a good book on Pakistaniyat, and he's given about 48 qualities or 51 qualities on how you could be a good Pakistani. But be a proud Pakistani. Pakistan has done tremendous work. Pakistan is unique in the world. It has been a place where 35 million Afghan refugees have been there for 30 years, even 2.5 million, 3.5 million since 30 years, 2.5 million even today. Pakistan has opened its doors, and I didn't hear a single voice in the newspaper or anywhere that these should not be accepted or these should be thrown out. Imagine, today in the world, countries are resisting. Countries are resisting. Developed countries who can do a lot are resisting refugees. They don't want 100. One country says that we can't take more than 500 refugees. Another says we can't. And a poor country like Pakistan, be proud of the fact that we came forward, we welcomed our brothers, and we, out of compassion, nothing forced us. Nobody will ever force us, but out of compassion, and we've been home to refugees. So Pakistan has had this good quality, and I can give you examples of my personal life. For example, I was there in Chicago when the New Orleans tragedy took place, when there was New Orleans was flooded, and the whole country and people there were looking up at the government. In Pakistan, during the earthquake, our own people blocked the roads. Everybody took out his car, loaded stuff in his car, and tried and went out to help. So this is Pakistan. So the compassion is there. What has been missing actually? The thing which was missing, the missing factor was that the governance in this country has been poor, and that is what we should be trying to improve, the governance. The fact that Pakistan is a rich country in our hearts, in whatever is available, but if there is corruption, we are not able to fulfill the demands of what the Constitution had asked us to do, that we should be able to provide education, we should be able to provide good health, we should be able to then have a system where people are not deprived of anything, plus and enhance and ensure rights to all, not only men, women, everybody who's a Pakistani should have rights. And I am very worried about a number of issues, and I'll mention it to you because you are an organization which is going out into the people, looking at what you can do and trying your best. Let me say trying your best. You cannot substitute even a provincial government, you cannot substitute even a union council because they get the budgets, huge budgets from the government. But what you can do is try and help as much as you can. At the same time, you become icons. People look up to you. People follow you. Even the 4 speeches which I heard of people coming there, they're so proud of the fact that they have been uplifted by SPO. So that is your biggest contribution. Not in numbers, but in the fact that numbers will follow. But organizations like such will, as they come over. There are a few issues in Pakistan which you are looking at, but let me underline them because this interaction always helps. I believe, like I mentioned, health is one issue. There is a lot of prevention which can be done. $1 spent or 1 rupee spent on prevention saves 100 in curative care. Curative care is expensive. I became a dentist. I was educated on how to treat people, which is very expensive. I was not educated peripherally with a minor, not much of motivation that you must prevent problems. So Pakistan should be looking at prevention. Washing your hands, simply washing your hands, for example, can prevent communicable diseases. Very simple, not very difficult and very cheap. Similarly, early diagnosis of things, prevention, stay away from carcinogenic stuff like gutka. I've tried, my whole life has been spent fighting gutka and cigarettes, but they're still there. You can't fight big money, unless a policy is made. My friend, the health minister, he put up a tax, and throughout the world it was called the sin tax. So he also mentioned the sin tax, and he was taken to task about the sin tax, So he wanted to tax carbonated beverages, and he wanted to tax cigarettes for the fact just to make it difficult for people to get. But imagine the contrast in our country. The contrast is that there is a huge population which is suffering from stunting and malnutrition. And who's responsible? You and I are responsible. Keep that in mind. It's not the government. The government also is responsible. But you and I are responsible. We come across that. So stunting, malnutrition at one stage, at one level. And stunting, again, if I can communicate in 2 words, stunting is since conception to 1,000 days. Since the child is conceived, the mother's health, and the next 1,000 days that the child should have breast milk, and the mother should be fed well. But this is a big factor. 44% of the people in Pakistan, children are stunted, and this is not a recoverable process. Malnutrition is a recoverable process. As a doctor, I can tell you that better nutrition, if the child has had poor nutrition at the age of 5 or 6, better nutrition, the statistics regarding height, regarding weight, etc. recover. But stunting is a permanent infliction as far as the mind is concerned, and the IQ levels are lower. So that's an issue. At the same time, the rich people and the well-to-do people, you are well-to-do, some may be rich, some may not be rich, they are suffering from obesity. On one hand, you don't have enough food. On the other hand, is an issue of obesity, of diabetes, of heart disease increasing because people don't exercise. वो बेचारा मर कर सारे दिन exercise करता है because he has to lift weights and he has to do labor. And us, we sit in the car, get out of the car, get doors opened, go in elevators, etc. And so there is a contradiction in life. And I was suggested to the health minister that we must have an exercise day, but then exercise day is meant for the elite, like you. So it has to be a comprehensive attack on both people who are feeding themselves too much and people who are not getting enough food. So this contradiction in society has to be looked after. Then at the same time, let me just mention, not to elaborate too much, the fact that women do not get inheritance in Pakistan easily. There is a major issue, major issue. And we call ourselves inhabitants of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and for those who do not know, Surah Nisa describes as clearly, more than any law which God has described, the rights of inheritance of women and everybody. And we violate that. We don't give those rights. So that is a major issue. I am trying to work on that. So I think that is something you folks should also keep that in mind. Better sanitation as you go into deep into society. Better sanitation, better cleanliness. Population is not being discussed. Is not a discourse these days. Very common. We must look at that fact, and I will try my best to try and get the Islamic Ideology Council and others to take part in this wholesome exercise to manage our population better. I must thank you. What you are doing is leveraging ideas, leveraging issues, and in different ways people learn. I remember the Aman Foundation, which was established by Arif Naqvi Sahab. $100 million were kept into it, and I was very impressed by the goal. The goal was that if an organization which starts with $100 million is established as a commercial organization, 10 years down the road it should be worth $1 billion. But then the concept which was inculcated in Aman Foundation, which did a good work in Karachi and elsewhere, the concept forwarded was the fact that you should be able to leverage this $100 million and involve other organizations doing the same kind of work, so that by the end of 10 years, you should have $1 billion of similar work going on. And SPO, I credit you, you must have done that kind of leveraging, inspired other people, other organizations to do the same thing. In the end, I must thank you. I appreciate all such work which is being done by people who spend their time, who spend their intellect, who spend their money for looking at the well-being of people in Pakistan. Have a lot of hope. The country is changing, but the country will change the more you can inspire, the more the government can inspire people to take charge. You are on the threshold of a major change in the world. In fact, the previous visit a few days ago of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, I was very impressed by the fact that that Pakistan welcomed the fact that there is investment coming in. It's not aid, it's not charity, it's investment. The opportunities are huge, tremendous. You have huge mineral reserves, you have everything you can look for. And today, with the fourth industrial revolution around, you just uplift the intellect of our youth into understanding the change which is happening. And rather than brick and mortar building of Pakistan, it is the mental upbringing of people, educating them, bringing them up, which will change your country for the better. It's not going to be the same country anymore. And I predict by the end of 5 years or 10 years, Pakistan will be one of the few hugely developed countries in the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Keep up what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, I invite members of the SPO General Body to kindly come to the dais for a group photograph with the President.